In one of the most exciting news so far in 2024 is the comeback of the Dear Vocalist franchise. And of course, being a longtime fan and having this franchise as my all-time favorite, it is of course time to talk about this comeback in a more relaxed way and showing why you should be excited about Dear Vocalist's 8th season headliner. Let's kick off this episode of SEIYUU Lounge. Welcome to SEIYUU Lounge, I am your host Vanessa, and today's topic is why you should be excited about Dear Vocalist's 8th season headliner. For those of you that do not know, this is an episode that is going to get really personal because I love the Dear Vocalist franchise and I have been following it basically since it started. It wasn't necessarily when it was launched, but I started to follow it really in the very first year it was announced. So this is a franchise that I hold really dear. I've said it countless times before in the monthly review episodes on the YouTube channel, and I've wrote it countless times in the reviews that I do of this franchise, that I do appreciate this franchise a whole lot. Of course, I do not say in those reviews that I am a massive fan of the franchise or that the franchise is my number one all-time favorite. So the franchise is back after 2 years away, and the last time that the franchise was releasing music was in 2022, so mind you, it has been a bit of a wait for us fans of the Dear Vocalist franchise, and it has been a wait that has left me quite worried, and I'm going to explain why. The Dear Vocalist franchise was created by Reject, and Reject usually is really particular about their IP. IP means intellectual property, it's usually the projects that they create. For legal reasons, you call it IP, for fans, it's usually called a project. So, in 2022, the franchise kicked off its 7th season, Unlimited. And it was amazing because it was the very first time that this franchise was releasing music, drama CD with the vocalist and a drama CD with the band, which was the very first time that we got to listen to the voices behind each band member for each vocalist. And this was quite exciting, but at the same time it felt to me that maybe Reject is running out of ideas and maybe the Dear Vocalist franchise is nearing its end. Although I am a massive fan of the franchise, and usually I will think that I do not want this franchise to end ever. At least I want the Dear Vocalist franchise to have more longevity than the Diabolic Lovers franchise, which is also from Reject. But yeah, although I am quite aware that as a fan I want this project to continue for a long time, I'm also aware that Reject sometimes runs out of ideas and projects simply disappear. If you look at the Pythagoras Production franchise, which is the 2D music franchise that harbors Marginal Number 4, Lagrange Point, and Golden Record, you will notice that the franchise is not as active as before. And seeing as that franchise, which was really active for almost a decade, suddenly disappear or being really quiet, seeing the Dear Vocalist franchise going radio silent in 2023 made me really worried about its future. Sorry, but I'm the type of person that usually thinks about bad things first and only later I think about the possibilities that are positive. So the first thing that came with this sort of news, it wasn't even a news, it was basically the fact that throughout 2023 there was no music from the Dear Vocalist franchise and no season announced. It worried me because the CDs were left in a sort of, there's a continue to those. At least I do listen to some of the drama CDs in here, but I'm going to talk from the experience listening to Judas CD. And I felt that there was a continue in there. There's no end but a continue. And it felt to me that if they were going to stop, it was a really odd place to stop the story. Thankfully, it was only the franchise stopping for a year. And why did the franchise stop for a year? And why was or am I this excited right now? Well, last year, Daisuke Iwasaki rejects CEO and in some capacity is the creative lead for many of the projects at Reject. Mind you, although it may seem like it, Reject is not a big label, not a big company, they are quite small in size and even in budget, so do not think that the Reject company is really that big. They are not. They sometimes do projects or create projects that sound bigger in scope and scale, but they do not usually have the budget for that, or they have the budget for that, but they need to collaborate with other projects. In this case, the Marvelous company, which is collaborating with Reject for the Fabulous Night project. But in this case, Dear Vocalist was away for a year because Daisuke Iwasaki, who is the Reject CEO and in some way the creative lead for many of the projects at Reject, was hospitalized in, I believe, March because he had a heart failure or heart problem that basically put him bedridden for months. He had to go undergo surgery a couple of times. He was in the hospital for a long time and the company had no CEO present and no creative lead present. As such, any projects that needed to be approved to be released in 2023 were not approved, and that's why you had Erosion, for example, in the Carnelian Blood franchise, releasing music early in the year because that was already approved from the year before. But after that, the Carnelian Blood franchise, Dear Vocalist franchise, Diabolic Lovers franchise, Marginal Number 4 or Pythagoras Production franchise, all franchises were quiet, absolutely quiet. Only the Fabulous Night franchise was active, and that's because they are basically collaborating with Marvelous, and Reject only takes care of the story and the concept, but the distribution is done by Marvelous, so they do not need to worry about that. And as such, the music was being released because it was pre-approved, or there was some part in the creation that was part in Marvelous side, so they didn't need to worry as much about Reject as, for example, the in-house projects created really by Reject and distributed by Reject. That was the basis for Dear Vocalist franchise's disappearance in 2023. It was already on silence, but with a good reason behind. At the same time, this reason shows that Reject is really a small company, because if they were a bigger company, they didn't need necessarily the CEO to approve a project. They would have something, a sort of a director beneath him that would approve the project without the CEO's approval. So this goes to show that Reject is a really small company, and that without their CEO, Reject is barely anything. But it was good that Daisuke Iwasaki actually overcame his health issues, and that is actually much better right now. And at the same time, this means that the music at Reject is back on track, or at least it's trying to make up for the fact that in 2023 they were not active. During Christmas 2023, Reject announced that Dear Vocalist was back with a 8th season called Headliner. And people were already thinking and theorizing, why is it called Headliner? Of course, because the bands are all part of Climax Records, and Climax Records has put them a challenge of headlining a live show, and the best one will headline a live show. This is all part of the concept behind the franchise. I now notice that I'm talking about the Dear Vocalist franchise, assuming that you, listener, know what I'm talking about. And I forgot to make an introduction about this project. Really quick, for those of you that do not know, the Dear Vocalist franchise is a franchise created by Reject in 2015. It is a franchise focused on rock music and with a really interesting duality of music CDs and drama CDs, in which the drama CDs are recorded with a dummy head microphone. When I say a dummy head microphone, is a 360 microphone that makes it feel as if you are part of the story. This is a franchise that focuses a lot on character development at the same time that it explores mental health issues. Despite not being obvious and not being in the tagline, the Dear Vocalist franchise really explores a lot of different mental health issues and how each vocalist is overcoming those. For example, I am a big fan of Judah. Judah has anger management issues. He's a genius, but he basically doesn't know how to channel his genius alongside other creative people without being really violent. And he has anger management issues that he's trying to overcome with each CD, and as the story progresses, you notice him mellowing, you notice him being more proactive in stopping his reactions, his violent reactions before they happen. There are other characters in this franchise and they all have some sort of mental health issue, or they have an issue that needs solving that may be creating mental health issues in you, their significant other. So that's the case of Momochi. He has problems, but he's also creating problems for you to deal with. So this is a franchise that focuses a lot on storytelling, and despite not many people being big fans of the franchise because some people do not like drama CDs, this is a franchise that has a really well interwoven story and music. The music is really a reflection of the story, or where the characters are right now, or how they are developing their skills or improving as people or as artists, and it shows also their love for you, their significant other. So I do love this franchise a whole lot because the storytelling is really, really well done. At the same time, the music is all created by Ron. He is their executive director in the music side. Everything about the music in the franchise, from the songs performed by the vocalists, even down to the instrumental tracks that are performed as the background for the drama CDs, and even the ensemble drama CDs in which all band members go on a trip, the music is created by Ron. This is a really awesome franchise. The 8th season is here, and it's called Headliner, and it's going to kick off in May 2024. This is really, really exciting for me because I have been waiting for a good rock music project to be active. In 2023, we had the Dig Rock franchise. It is still the best exclusively rock franchise out there, for me at least. And they are doing an amazing job with their music plus drama CDs. Their drama CDs are really focused on the bands. There are no drama CDs with dummy head mic and no drama CDs with you, the listener, being part of the story. You are just listening to the story unfolding. But yeah, the Dig Rock franchise was active last year and they were really releasing awesome rock music, but it wasn't enough. Usually, the Dig Rock franchise was releasing music almost in tandem with the Dear Vocalist franchise, which was something that for me as a rock fan was really, really exciting and made me wish for more of that to happen instead of having 25 projects that are about pop idols and 2 about hip-hop and barely any about rock music. In this case, the franchise is back, Dear Vocalist is back, and they are bringing back CIEL. And in case you do not know, CIEL is voiced by Ken. CIEL was present in the very first 2 seasons of the franchise, and he was later replaced by Joshua as almost as an exchange, because Joshua was part of, within the universe of the story, Joshua was part of the North American or the USA branch of Climax Records, and CIEL was part of the Japanese branch, so they exchanged. CIEL was started to become active in the US, and as such he left the Dear Vocalist franchise, let's say like that, and Joshua made an exchange from the US to Japan, and that's why he started to be a character in the 3rd season of the Dear Vocalist franchise. This is an exchange in the story, not necessarily in reality. What happened was that Ken was not active with the franchise, but CIEL was still a character that was and existed in the franchise and exists in the franchise. So CIEL is back, but CIEL won't be singing, and this is something that many people were asking about. Is CIEL going to be back? If he's going to be back, will he be singing? Actually, he will be back, but he won't be singing. He will be appearing in the drama CDs. I assume, and this is only speculation on my side because there is no information about that, or at least no confirmation about that CIEL will appear in the drama CDs in which there is a band and not on the individual ones, because it wouldn't make any sense for him to appear in the individual ones when you are listening to those because of the romance, and CIEL appearing wouldn't make any sense. he will be appearing in the band drama CDs because it makes the most sense. At least for me, it makes the most sense that he appears there. So to give pointers to the bands, because he already headlined his own show, that's why he is now in the US. So it would make a lot of sense. Having Ken back is also something really exciting because CIEL was really cheeky, a bit teasing. He was really interesting as a character, and honestly, if he returned to release music, something that is not confirmed, I would love to have his symphonic rock back again, because no other band in this franchise has that kind of grandiose rock sound to them. So we are going to have the traditional 6 drama CDs, starting with Lumière, which is the band fronted by Reodo, voiced by Toshiki Masuda. This is going to be quite interesting. It's always Reodo opening the franchise's CDs because he's the canon behind these. Let's say he's the face of the project, not necessarily the canon. The canon is you, the listener, that makes it so. For me, it is Judah. For you, maybe another vocalist. Then we are going to have Joshua back as the vocalist of Brave Child. Joshua is voiced by Nobunaga Shimazaki. We are going to get in July Kagaribi back. Kagaribi is fronted by Judah, who is voiced by Soma Saito. Then we have Jet Red Fury, the pop rock band, or let's say alternative rock band, fronted by Tsuyu, who is voiced by Natsuki Hanae. Then we have a fan favorite, Momochi, back with his own band, Veronica. Momochi is voiced by Toshiki Toyonaga. And we wrap up the franchise's CDs in October, if everything goes right, with NSFW, electronic rock band fronted by A-Dash, voiced by Ryohei Kimura. Let's say something right now, because the Reject company usually misses deadlines because they have production problems. I'm talking about these CDs wrapping up in October, but if something happens like it happened in Unlimited, in which some CDs were delayed, we may have this franchise wrapping up the 8 CD series in December. These are, of course, dates that were confirmed by Reject, but seeing as Reject usually has production problems, the CDs may be delayed. It wouldn't surprise me. At least I already know that they are going to release something more, which is something that eases my stress about this franchise no longer being around. I still want this franchise to be around for a long time. I'm quite excited about this franchise making its comeback. This is a franchise that has much more to itself than what meets the eye and the ear at first. For some people, this is a franchise that is all about fan service on the drama CDs, which is not. And for other people, it is all about the music, which is all about rock, which also is not, because we have A-Dash and Momochi who are performing variants of rock, and at times they do not even perform rock, they perform electronica. But for the majority of the bands, yes, they are performing rock, different genres or subgenres, but let's not say that this is an exclusively rock franchise, because we have 2 bands that do a bit of everything. This is a franchise that for some people will not be much more than, oh, they release music and drama CDs, I'm not interested. Yeah, but you are missing out on a story that is really amazing. If you are someone that gets really excited about the stories, for example, in the Hanadol franchise, if you are following the story really passionately, if you are, for example, following the story really passionately in the Idolish 7 franchise, then you need to check the Dear Vocalist franchise, because although this goes a bit more up close and personal, these drama CDs, one of those is really personal. You are part of the story. The other one, you're of course following the stories of the bands. But this is a franchise so focused on storytelling that if you are a fan of storytelling driven 2D music projects or mixed media projects, this is one you should check. If you are a big fan of the Hanadol franchise, of course in Dear Vocalist you won't find that much sadness and darkness, because this is not focused on that. It's not as deep as that. But it is deep in the sense that it explores mental health, it explores people's bonds, how they grow closer with time, how people heal, how people overcome issues, how they grow as artists and as people. So that's a different outlook about the characters, but it's still worth checking out, because the story and how the story mixes with the music is really well done, and it is something that still to this day impresses me and makes me really a massive fan of this franchise. It's not only about my favorite SEIYUU being in here, and even by chance we have 2 SEIYUU I love in here, Toshiki Masuda and Soma Saito, or because it has the best singer among male SEIYUU, Toshiki Toyonaga. No, there's much more. The story is genuinely good. And the music doesn't come far from that. It's really amazing. The music is some of the best you can find by rock or 2D rock music projects. And at the same time, it is some of the most exciting you can find currently being performed by 2D music projects. The music in the Dear Vocalist franchise is really good. Of course, if you are a fan of pop music, maybe this franchise is not for you. But if you are looking for a really good story with each of the vocalists having their own storytelling beat and their own vibe and their own issues to solve and their own unique relationships with you, then this is something that you can check. Even if you are not into the drama parts that are focused on the romance, listen to the band's parts in which you get to check their dynamics and understand why their music sounds like, or how the music sounds as it is. It is really interesting, and it goes really beyond just being a superficial type of 2D music project like most projects usually tend to be. In this case, the Dear Vocalist franchise does something that, for example, the Dig Rock franchise is now doing, which is focusing on the bands, and at the same time it has a more personal place or a more personal approach by focusing on the vocalists and giving them time to shine away from the stage, close to you, behind closed doors. So this is something that I really enjoy. At the same time, the focus on mental health and tackling those issues and doing so with sensibility is something that you usually do not find because most projects want to avoid touching upon those subjects. In this case, this franchise does those really well, even if I have always to say that I love Momochi, but Momochi has a big issue there, and there are a couple of trigger warnings associated with Momochi, especially if you are going to listen to his solo drama CDs, the ones in which you are a part of the story. In that case, you need to have a bit more care, because the story in there, though it's not done without sensibility, it's really touchy and really sensitive, the topics that are being explored in there, and how Momochi explores those, and how you as their significant other are approaching those, or trying to make him turn into a better person, a person without those issues, a person that has overcome those issues and is not hurting others. That's a different talk, and I'm not going to elongate too much in here because the episode is already really long. When I talk about things that I love, I tend to talk for a long time. Let's go back to the script, because otherwise I do not know what I'm talking about. Let me know in the comments on YouTube and on Spotify what you think about the Dear Vocalist franchise and about this comeback with the 8th season, and which CD are you most excited for. And remember, leave your comments as complex or as simple as they may be, and you can be featured on upcoming episodes of SEIYUU Lounge. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss the hand that feeds HQ's weekly male SEIYUU and music related content, hit the subscribe button. And if you are listening to this episode on a podcast listening platform, please consider following the podcast and leaving a review. Leaving a review is really simple and helps other people find this podcast and fall in love with male SEIYUU artists and 2D groups. I'll return next week with another episode of SEIYUU Lounge. Thank you for listening, and see you guys around.